Let's start with the basics, but don't be fooled, this is anything but simple. What does it mean to be Jewish? Is it a religion, a culture, an ethnicity, or all of the above? The answer depends on who you ask, and that's part of what makes this question so fascinating. Judaism isn't just a belief system, it's a way of life, a shared history, and a profound connection to identity. Judaism is one of the oldest monotheistic religions in the world, tracing its origins back over 3,000 years. It begins with the covenant, a sacred agreement between God and Abraham. This covenant established the Jewish people as chosen for a unique purpose to live in a way that reflects God's will and to be a light to the nations. But this chosenness wasn't about privilege, it came with responsibilities. It meant living a life of ethics, justice, and faith, even in the face of incredible challenges. But here's what makes Judaism distinct. It's not just about belief. In fact, Judaism places as much emphasis on action, what you do, as it does on faith. The Torah, the central text of Judaism, contains 613 commandments, or mitzvot, that guide every aspect of life, from how to treat others to what foods to eat. It's a faith deeply rooted in practice, where the spiritual and the practical are inseparable. Let's talk about those practices. Observing Shabbat, the Sabbath, is one of the most defining aspects of Judaism. From Friday evening to Saturday night, Jews around the world set aside work to focus on rest, family, and spiritual renewal. It's not just a ritual, it's a countercultural act in a world that's always on the go. Lighting candles, sharing meals, and disconnecting from the hustle and bustle, these actions ground people in something bigger than themselves.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love.
Then there are the dietary laws, or kashrut. These aren't just rules about what you can and can't eat, they're about mindfulness. Keeping kosher transforms eating from a mundane activity into a sacred act. It's a way of bringing intention to something as basic as a meal, connecting it to tradition and values. And yet, being Jewish isn't just about religious practices. It's about history, a history filled with both triumphs and tragedies. From the Exodus story, where Moses led the Israelites out of slavery in Egypt, to the destruction of the first and second temples in Jerusalem, the Jewish people have faced exile, persecution, and resilience time and again. These experiences aren't just stories, they're lived memories passed down through generations. But here's where things get really interesting. Judaism doesn't fit neatly into categories. You can be a secular Jew who doesn't believe in God but feels deeply connected to Jewish culture. You can be an Orthodox Jew who follows every commandment to the letter. You can even convert to Judaism and become part of the community, regardless of your background. This diversity makes Judaism incredibly rich, but also hard to define. What unites all these expressions of Judaism is the idea of covenant, a relationship not just between God and individuals, but between God and an entire people. It's about belonging to something greater, being part of a story that stretches back millennia and continues to evolve. Judaism is a story of survival and resilience unlike any other. From its earliest days, the Jewish people have faced exile, displacement, and persecution, yet their identity has endured. How? The answer lies in Judaism's unique ability to adapt without losing its essence. The first major turning point came with the destruction of the first temple in Jerusalem in 586 BCE by the Babylonians. For the Jewish people, this wasn't just a political or military loss, it was a spiritual crisis. The temple was the center of their worship, the place where they believed God's presence dwelled. Losing it could have shattered their faith, but instead, something extraordinary happened. The Jewish people reinvented their relationship with God. Without a temple, they focused on study, prayer, and community, a shift that would shape Judaism for centuries. This adaptability became even more critical after the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 CE by the Romans. Once again, the Jewish people faced a monumental challenge. How do you maintain a faith built around a central place of worship when that place no longer exists? The answer was the synagogue, a place for study, prayer, and gathering. Judaism became portable, something you could carry with you wherever you went. And that was crucial because the Jewish people were about to be scattered across the globe. The diaspora, the dispersion of Jews outside their ancestral homeland, defined much of Jewish history. From the Middle East to Europe, North Africa, and beyond, Jewish communities found themselves living as minorities, often under hostile conditions. But instead of disappearing, these communities thrived in their own unique ways. They developed rich traditions, from the Sephardic Jews of Spain and North Africa to the Ashkenazi Jews of Eastern Europe. Their languages, customs, and interpretations of Jewish law reflected the cultures they lived in, creating a mosaic of Jewish life. But life in the diaspora wasn't easy. Jews faced discrimination, expulsions, and violence, from the medieval pogroms in Europe to the horrors of the Holocaust in the 20th century. These events are among the darkest chapters in human history. Yet even in the face of unimaginable suffering, Jewish communities found ways to persevere. They clung to their traditions, their stories, and their hope. One of the most remarkable examples of this resilience is the way Jewish texts became a lifeline. The Torah, the Talmud, and countless commentaries served not just as religious guides, but as intellectual and cultural anchors. These texts allowed Jewish communities to debate, question, and adapt their faith to new realities. Judaism didn't just survive, it grew stronger through dialogue and interpretation. Let's talk about modernity. The Enlightenment and the rise of secularism in the 18th and 19th centuries brought new challenges and opportunities. For the first time in centuries, Jews in Europe began to gain civil rights and integrate into broader society. But this raised a new question: how do you maintain a distinct Jewish identity in a world that's becoming increasingly secular? This question gave rise to different movements within Judaism. Reform Judaism embraced modernity, adapting rituals and practices to align with contemporary values. Orthodox Judaism sought to preserve traditional practices as closely as possible. Conservative Judaism found a middle ground, balancing tradition with change. These movements reflect the diversity within Judaism, showing that there's no single way to be Jewish. And then there's Zionism, the movement to establish a Jewish homeland in the land of Israel. For centuries, Jews had prayed for a return to their ancestral homeland. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, this dream became a political movement. The establishment of the State of Israel in 1948 was a watershed moment in Jewish history, providing a homeland for Jews after the devastation of the Holocaust. But it also brought new challenges, including conflicts over land, identity, and the relationship between religion and politics. What's remarkable about Judaism is its ability to hold these tensions. It's a faith that thrives on questions, debates, and even contradictions. It's not about having all the answers, it's about the process of seeking them together as a community. Let's bring it to the present. What does it mean to be Jewish today? For some, it's deeply tied to religion, observing the Sabbath, keeping kosher and engaging in prayer and study. For others, it's about culture, sharing Jewish food, humor, music, and traditions with their families and communities. And for many, it's both, or even something entirely unique to their personal experience. In today's world, Judaism faces new opportunities and challenges. The global Jewish population is more diverse than ever before. Jews live in almost every country, representing a wide spectrum of beliefs, practices, and identities. There are secular Jews who rarely step inside a synagogue but feel a deep connection to Jewish history and culture. There are ultra-Orthodox Jews who live according to strict interpretations of Jewish law. And there's everyone in between. What's remarkable about Judaism is its ability to hold these tensions. It's a faith that thrives on questions, debates, and even contradictions. It's not about having all the answers, it's about the process of seeking them together as a community. Let's bring it to the present. What does it mean to be Jewish today? For some, it's deeply tied to religion, observing the Sabbath, keeping kosher, and engaging in prayer and study. For others, it's about culture, sharing Jewish food, humor, music, and traditions with their families and communities. And for many, it's both, or even something entirely unique to their personal experience. In today's world, Judaism faces new opportunities and challenges. The global Jewish population is more diverse than ever before. Jews live in almost every country, representing a wide spectrum of beliefs, practices, and identities. There are secular Jews who rarely step inside a synagogue but feel a deep connection to Jewish history and culture. There are ultra-Orthodox Jews who live according to strict interpretations of Jewish law. And there's everyone in between. Anti-Semitism remains a painful reality. Despite centuries of progress, Jews still face prejudice and violence in many parts of the world. This creates a dual challenge: staying resilient in the face of hatred while also building bridges with other communities to promote understanding and solidarity. Many Jews today see their identity not just as a source of personal meaning, but as a call to action to fight for justice, equality, and peace. Then there's the question of tradition. For some Jews, maintaining tradition means following ancient laws and customs as closely as possible. For others, it means adapting those traditions to fit modern values and lifestyles. For example, some Jewish communities are reinterpreting rituals to be more inclusive, such as allowing women and LGBTQ individuals to take on leadership roles in ways that weren't historically permitted. This isn't about abandoning tradition, it's about keeping it alive by making it relevant. And let's not forget about the joy. Being Jewish isn't just about struggle or resilience, it's also about celebration. From the exuberance of Purim to the solemn beauty of Yom Kippur, Jewish holidays bring people together to mark time, reflect, and rejoice. Food, music, storytelling, these aren't just cultural markers, they're ways of expressing what it means to be part of the Jewish people. But perhaps the most profound aspect of being Jewish today is the idea of tikkun olam, repairing the world. This concept, deeply rooted in Jewish tradition, calls on individuals to make the world a better place through acts of kindness, justice, and service. It's a reminder that being Jewish isn't just about identity, it's about action. It's about recognizing that the world is imperfect and that we all have a role to play in healing it. So what does it mean to be Jewish today? It means carrying forward an ancient tradition while navigating a modern world. It means finding meaning in rituals, texts, and practices, or creating new ones that resonate. It means wrestling with identity, with history, and with the responsibility to leave the world better than you found it. Here's the takeaway: Judaism isn't a static faith or culture. It's alive, evolving, and deeply personal. It's about being part of a people who've survived, adapted, and thrived through countless challenges. And it's about asking and living big questions about who we are, where we come from, and how we can make the world better for those who come after us. Judaism today is a tapestry of ideas, traditions, and experiences woven across thousands of years. At its core, it reflects something profoundly human: the search for connection, meaning, and purpose. But what makes it remarkable is how it balances continuity with change. The traditions that began with Abraham, Moses, and the ancient Israelites have adapted and flourished in contexts they could never have imagined. One of the most striking aspects of being Jewish today is how it bridges individual and communal identity. For some, being Jewish is intensely personal: a connection to family, a commitment to values, or a source of comfort and strength. For others, it's deeply communal, rooted in shared rituals, traditions, and a sense of collective responsibility. And for many, it's both. Judaism invites people to explore their unique relationship with their faith, culture, and history, while reminding them that they're part of something larger. Let's talk about how Judaism engages with modern challenges. Take environmental issues, for example. Concepts like Bal Tashchit, do not destroy, and Shomrei Adamah, guardians of the earth, have inspired Jewish communities to lead efforts in sustainability and conservation. These ancient teachings, rooted in the Torah, feel more relevant than ever in a world facing climate change. This isn't just about religious obligation, it's about seeing the interconnectedness of all life and acting on that understanding. Or think about social justice. Throughout history, Jews have been deeply involved in movements for equality and human rights. From civil rights activism in the United States to refugee advocacy worldwide, Jewish teachings about justice, tzedek, Terd of justice, justice you shall pursue, continue to inspire action. For many Jews, their faith isn't just about personal spirituality, it's a call to repair the brokenness in the world. At the same time, Judaism doesn't shy away from difficult questions. What does it mean to preserve Jewish identity in a world where assimilation is widespread? How do Jews maintain solidarity when their community is so diverse in belief, practice, and politics? And how do they navigate their connection to Israel, a place of profound significance, but also of deep complexity and conflict? These questions don't have easy answers, and that's the point. Judaism has always been about wrestling with ideas. Just look at the name Israel, which means one who wrestles with God. That spirit of questioning isn't a flaw, it's a feature. It's what keeps Judaism vibrant, relevant, and alive. And then there's the role of memory and storytelling. For Jews, remembering isn't just about looking back, it's about carrying those memories forward. It's about telling the stories of resilience, survival, and hope that have defined their history. These stories aren't just in books, they're in the melodies of a Friday night song, the taste of a traditional dish, the glow of a menorah, or the recitation of the Shema, the central declaration of Jewish faith. In many ways, the act of being Jewish today is itself a miracle. After centuries of exile, persecution, and genocide, Jewish communities have not only survived but thrived. They've built vibrant cultures, contributed to countless fields of human endeavor, and remained a testament to the power of faith, community, and perseverance. So what does it mean to be Jewish today? It means living at the intersection of the ancient and the modern, the individual and the communal, the sacred and the everyday. It means carrying forward a story that's as old as recorded history, while writing the next chapter in real time. It means holding on to traditions that ground you while embracing a world that's constantly changing. And it means asking yourself, how do I honor this heritage, this identity, in the way I live my life? Because ultimately, being Jewish isn't just about what you inherit, it's about what you create.